Hi everyone. So today we have Abi Sachithanantham from IIBA Australia chapter joining us in the Analyst Café. So Abi is the Agile Delivery Lead of Telstra Australia, and she currently works as chairwoman of IIBA Australia chapter, and she has her beginnings from Sri Lanka. So guys, believe she started from Sri Lanka and now she's working in Australia. I think this discussion is going to be very insightful, and I think you are going to get a lot out of this. And I would like to welcome Abi. Hi, Abi.
Hello, how are you, Ikra?
So I think you are doing great, and in Australia at the moment. And let's start the discussion by asking about your journey. Let's start with you, your start, how your journey began so far, and where you started in Sri Lanka, and now what you're doing in Australia as a BA.
Sure. So of course, I'm from Sri Lanka. Born and brought up in Sri Lanka. I did my bachelor's at IIT. I think most of you know about it. My education background is with business management and IT. And I think mainly when I was in final year, when I was working on my final year project, that's when I know that I want to become a BA because I really like the technology. But not too passionate to do coding, but I still like to talk to the business and understand things. So I was doing some research like many years ago, and that's when I found like business analysis is one of the trend that I would be interested in doing. That's how my journey started. And I have been in multiple company in Sri Lanka. I think I worked in Sri Lanka for maybe 5 to 6 years before I moved here. My last company was sold 24/7, so I was heading the business analysis team under the innovation department. And it's business analysis has always been my passion, and I've been I was also been lecturing when I was in Sri Lanka, mainly during the business analysis project management modules. So it's something that I'm very interested in, and I enjoy doing it. And I think I'm a little bit good at it as well. So that's how my journey started. And coming to Australia was something that I had to do because my husband was here. So that's the main reason I moved to Australia. And it's been 6 years that I have been working. So when I came to Australia, I did start as a business analyst, worked in multiple organizations, and definitely more keen to talk about like what was the cultural different, what are the things that I experienced, the challenges and opportunity I had here. Then for the past 2.5 years, from the business analysis. So I have been working as a principal BA. Then from there, now I have diverted my focus into more delivery side of things. So as you mentioned, I'm working as a delivery lead for Telstra, managing three big projects. So yeah, that's my journey from Sri Lanka to Australia.
Oh, that's insightful, Abi. So let's talk about your IIBA journey. Like in Australia, I think you are now the IIBA Australia chapter chairwoman. So how that journey started? If we go into that.
It was actually an accident. When I came to Australia, I was looking at like some meetup groups and everything, but didn't think of IABA joining. It was not on my checklist. So my initial community that I started working when I was in Australia, so I'm from Brisbane, is women in Agile. So I was more focusing on Agile, and there was a community there. So that's what I was working on. So that time, the current chair of Brisbane branch, he reached out to me and he asked whether I'm interested in joining the team. So definitely not as a chair. So I started my journey with the Australian IABA as a marketing coordinator. That is like I'm talking 3 years before. Then I was in the role for like maybe 7 to 8 months, and then there was a need for a chair for the Brisbane branch. So that's when I had an interview with the board because Australian IABA is more bigger because we have different multiple states. So we have the chapter and then we have the branches. So Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney. So those are the main branches, Adelaide. So then I was appointed as a chair for the Brisbane branch. So it's been a 2+ years journey. It was very interesting because when I started, it was like little during COVID, like when we didn't have much events in person because we were all moving from like having in person to online. So we were also having that technology cultural shock in general as well. So it was a tough period, and as you know, it's not always easy to have the volunteers as well because as I always say, you have your full-time job and then you have the family, then you will have a volunteering job. So it wasn't an easy journey, but definitely an adventurous one. So currently, apart from me, I have 12 people in my team, just with a Brisbane branch. And we look into events, study groups, mentorship, and operations. And we have a marketing team who does all the marketing for us as well. So that was my journey until the chair. And I don't know whether I told you actually. So from last December or maybe Jan, effectively, I got a new role with the IIBA Australian board as a director. So from next month onwards, I will be heading the entire Australian chapter in terms of events and marketing. So the journey
Wow.
still continues.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Abhi. So, I think when talking about the IIBA Australia chapter, now you told about the structure of the Australia chapter. I think the Sri Lanka chapter is a little bit different because we have only one chapter in Sri Lanka, and we go by the name like IIBA Colombo chapter because of the name regulations. So if not, it should have become Sri Lanka chapter, but it's only one chapter here. So I know the size of the country, continent, and different cities. It makes it like a bigger like a organization. So and also to add for the viewers, uh, that Abi and the Australia chapter and Xavier, there's another person. He is, I think, the Asia Pacific account manager for IIBA. So they had been helping the Sri Lanka chapter for the initiation. So for let you guys know, they had been working with us from the beginning of our chapter, and it had been really helpful for the chapter setup in Sri Lanka to get to the chartered level. And thanks for that also, Abi. I just wanted to mention that. And yeah,
I'm
now
so glad that you reached out, and I think it started with you, right? So kudos to you for making this happen because I know it's not an easy one, and I'm reaching out to someone like because we never met before, so like it takes so much guts to reach out and then like not give up attitude. So kudos to you and the team. So well done. I'm very humbled to be part of the process.
thank you, Abi. And I will like now go to like ask you what made you passionate to volunteer, like volunteer in the IIBA chapter. Like you have your work, you have your day work. This is not typical day work. Now you need to organize marketing activities, you need to organize events and sessions, and you need to coordinate with speakers. And there are a lot of things going now. You have your family life also. So what made you volunteer? Like what actually came out to you? Like I need to like this is my passion and things like that.
I definitely have some selfish reason, but before I spoke about that, like one thing I have always been someone who likes to like give that back to the community. In terms of I have had mentors and people who are senior to me in my career journey who helped me to be here. So this is something that I want to do in return because there are more passionate people who are looking for like guidance and things like that. So even when I was in Sri Lanka, I had like within the organization I was working in, I had like meetups group, and I think I like sharing the knowledge, and that's why I started lecturing at the part time when I was in Sri Lanka as well. So and I like talking, and the selfish reason. So when we talk about the selfish reason, it's again. When you come from Sri Lanka to a different country, it's completely new. I'm sure like you might be able to like resonate with me in terms of like the cultural shock or in terms of like like you might be heading like a bigger team, but when you come here it's everything is new. Sometimes you have to learn things. Some of the industry which are here are not in Sri Lanka. So having this community who you can talk to, bounce back ideas, are always helpful because it's a way that I give something that I know, and in return there are other people in the community who will have more knowledge than me, who will like share those with me as well. So it's a very good way of like building that strong community and gaining knowledge. And with, as you mentioned, with work, with family, it's not always easy to stay current with the trends and technology. You know, like I'm not a person who can sit for 1 or 2 hours and read like a research paper or a book. Sometimes I might not have that patience or the time space. But volunteering with such organization like IADA is much easier because it gives me a motive and the drive to do some research and get ready, because now I'm having an important role to actually share the information and knowledge to the community. So I hold that responsibility. But in turn, that is also making sure that I'm staying in trend with all the latest things that's happening in the BA, DL world. So that's passion I have, and meeting someone, and when I hear their success story, and if I know that I have helped them to at least like invite 1 or 2% to be part of that journey, it just makes me happy.
Okay, thank you, Abi. So, I have a question like what modern BS need. But before going to that, I think the conversation opened up about uh, becoming a business analyst in Australia. Like becoming now, you are now a global business analyst. Like you were from Sri Lanka, you are a BA. Now you're working in Australia as a BA. So even like now, me working in Bertusa, I feel like okay, we are working with international clients like Fortune 500, 2000 companies, and we from online we meet with them, and some of the BS they are on site, and there are like they collaborate with them, and we believe that we have that international exposure within Sri Lanka. So what do you think like when it comes to Australia? Now you had been there, like you had exactly now you had work in Australia and as a BA or on site there as it is living and living your life in the office, outside office, and so how is that transition like? How it's different from we being like in a place like Zone 24/7 or Vertusa or IFS and being a BA here working with international client and actually being there in those companies in countries like Australia?
Uh, I think, yeah, it's a very interesting question. So when I was working for Zone, and before that I was in a different company, and I've been working, as you mentioned, with US clients and UK clients, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, you know, the time zone is different. Sometimes you might, like, I initially, when I started, I was always like scared of the accent, because I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm a scared that whether they will understand mine and whether I will understand them. Because for a BA, it's all about talking. So definitely had those concerns when I started, uh, and it's a different thing. Like we work from a different country. We might not understand or witness the current situation that the clients are having, and you might. At most of the cases, you will have a good rapport with the client, but it's nothing like you working together in the team. Um, but work experience in Australia, like I have been blessed with like all the good companies and all the good team members. So haven't had like much challenges. But I'll give you an example. Maybe it might be useful. So when I came to Australia and when I started looking for jobs, one thing I was very scared, because a couple of people from Sri Lanka, they're like, oh my God, like when you go, you might not be able to get a job. So you might have to work in a restaurant before you find the right job, because it's completely different, right? So if anyone looking to do that, don't get demotivated or get upset with those comments, because every journey is different, right? So if someone says that, maybe that could be something that they could have heard from someone, or maybe that's their journey. But don't define your journey with their experience. So when I came here, I was a little scared. But I was like applying to all the companies and doing the research. That was my full-time thing for like 2 weeks. And I was grateful that I got a job in 2 weeks. So I didn't have to wait for a long time. But the first job I got is in an industry called superannuation. So superannuation is very, and not very similar, but it's a kind of mixture of what do you call? We have what do we have in Sri Lanka? I forgot. So you have your EPF, ETF.
Yeah.
and insurance and all. So it's a combination of that. So it's a different industry, which I never had an exposure in Sri Lanka because in Sri Lanka we don't have it. So when I joined the industry, it was completely new. So I got hired because of my BA skill, but I was not a domain expert. So learning the domain, learning the industry was not a challenge, but it's an interesting journey because it's completely new. Um, but apart from that, it's not a major difference. So if you could have asked this question before COVID, I could have said, you know what, like maybe being with the team in person and working with them makes a difference. But to be honest, now my team is in Melbourne, so I'm actually not meeting them every time. So I meet them only once a month. But it's just that you understand the culture around it, you understand what's happening, you will understand more industry trend specific to Australia. And also, again, the market here is bigger than Sri Lanka because of all the different states and population. So you'll have more exposure in terms of the options that you have, the companies that you can work on, and the people that you can interact with. And when I was in Sri Lanka, I wasn't. Maybe it's different now. It's been like 6 years, but I didn't have like a mentor per se. I had like people who are senior, so I can go and get advice whenever I want. But when I came to Australia, it was very easy for me to find mentors who are like senior to me or who are on similar track to get more experts advice. So it's been a very interesting journey. Initially, it might be scary, and sometimes you might even like have self doubts. But I think it's just that it's an initial phase of like facing a different change. So change is always hard, right? But when you actually face it, then it's pretty similar. I won't say it's completely different. I didn't have a very big cultural shock here because we have already worked in like clients from different countries when we were in Sri Lanka. But it's just that the small things that we see here add on to it.
Okay, so Abhi, now as BS, it's always recommended that you have your soft skills ready. You have your soft skills at the best level. So when your transition to Australia happened. So is there challenging to develop the soft skills? So are you really good at it to start with, or is there any hard skills that you started working on, like some other modeling skills or some kind of like analytical skills or like even a technology wise?
Actually, I don't know. I actually don't know who's going to be listening to this recording. But I'll tell you something. I felt like when I came here, I worked on more cutting edge technology in terms of IoT, ML, robotics when I was in Sri Lanka. So actually, like if I had the comparison, like from like in the initial stage of Australia versus Sri Lanka, like we in Sri Lanka, like we work on like all the cutting edge technology, and we have so much talent in Sri Lanka. So I won't say that, oh, when I came here, I started learning something completely new because everything else they've already in Sri Lanka. Like like WSO2 was doing like a lot of things, Dawn was doing, IFS, Virtusa. So didn't have any technology shock or something that I have to learn. I learned more stuff, my foundational bit in Sri Lanka. So that actually helped me to just connect the dot and understand. And in terms of particularly for business analysis, like again, 5 years back, right? When in Sri Lanka, we were using all the other UML and all the other notations to represent requirements and the user flows. But something that I started like researching and learning is BPM, Business Process Modeling 2.0. So that's something that I actually like started learning and doing it when I came here. But I'm sure like now in Sri Lanka, it's been widely used as well. But in terms of like soft skills, um, again, didn't have to go through much hassle of learning anything because like we were already doing whatever in Australians are doing in Sri Lanka. But maybe a soft skill that I have to learn or invest more time consciously to do is just in Sri Lanka we are like, I don't know. I think in Sri Lankans are like very kind and very soft spoken sometimes. But when you climb up the ladder, when you become the senior position, when you get into the leadership team, it's about building that strong leadership skill of like not I'm not saying you shouldn't be kind, but it's basically having that quality where you're still like empathetic, but also assertive in some ways. So that's something that I have to like consciously learn and have mentors helping me with that. Maybe that's just a personality thing. I'm not sure about it. But even in terms of presentations or doing the sprint planning, showcase, and everything, we have been doing the same thing in Sri Lanka as well. So that wasn't a big change. But as I came here, I understood the ways of working, how much priority in Brisbane or in Melbourne, like people give for the documentation. But again, like here, in Sri Lanka, sometimes when we work for the client, we will have all the documentation to make sure that everything is properly tracked, documented, because that is also part of the costing and the initial agreement with the client, right? But here, it's people don't like prefer much documentation. Again, following the agile principles, it's about like understanding the working systems and working on the iteration than just focusing on the documentation. So we still have the user story solution document, but we don't like spend more time documenting it. So which was a good thing. And also in terms of agile, after coming here, I got exposure for many aspects. So when I say agile, like it's a big umbrella term, right? And everyone have their views and there are best practices standard. But I was very fortunate to attend some conferences, some meetups where I would actually, there were so many thought-provoking points, more experts that I was fortunate to meet. Where when I was in Sri Lanka, for me, agile is about like doing the sprint planning, having the stand up and everything. But maybe with the experience, maybe after coming here, what I realized is agile is not just doing all those processes that is being highlighted. It's actually having a mindset of like iterative and incremental approach. So that's why like when I become the delivery lead and the scrum master, I focus on that than just blindly following the standards and everything. So it's just like access to more expertise opinion here, I think.
And to add to that point, Abhi, the one you talked about previously, like when you become a leader in a company, so you need to
Yeah.
sometimes you must have empathy, but also there are areas that you should be able to say no, and you should be able to uh, uh, take a step back, and also because sometimes I also felt that because when you become a leader, you have some subordinates also with you, so it
Exactly.
should be like someone is coming you, it's very that means you can open heartedly tell them, okay, I'll do it, I will be doing it, don't worry, we'll be take care of it. But it's end of the day, your team is going to handle that pressure. So there are a lot of things when you become a leader. So it's a really valid point for everyone who is like becoming a lead B or manager in the business analysis area, kind of like that. So it's very important. So sometimes when you grow in career, it's not the BA that started. Those responsibilities, they shift. That mindset, it should shift. So there are a lot of internal improvements that we need to do in our empathy part, in our understanding part, and it's
You're
really that
spot
is,
on.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think this is something that we will keep learning, right? Like whether we are in a different country or despite the companies that we work in, like as we grow, even in Sri Lanka here, as we grow, as we get more responsibility, it's not just about having the BA expertise, because like that could have served us when we were like writing user stories or working in a team. But when you get into a more leadership position, it's all about like making decision, being empathetic about the situation and helping the team to move forward. So it's a very interesting space to be in, because like BA delivery lead, it's mostly people management, like people handling, stakeholder management, and maybe that's to answer one of the previous question. Maybe that's the reason that I have chosen this BA DL path, because it's about like human interaction, right? So it's I don't think I will be someone who can just stare at the laptop and do something else. So having this face-to-face or in-person interaction is something that I really value. And also it's satisfaction of like you're actually contributing to make something awesome, like in terms of the IT system. So yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think a modern BA should need? Now, you had been working in BPMN and different latest technologies like machine learning and different things. So, what do you feel like in Australia? Oh, even BS in Sri Lanka who want to make their skills to the global level. What the world demands now from business analysts. So, in my opinion, what we need, I had seen, like BS need to have the basic understanding of machine learning, about AI, about business intelligence. Even they should have SQL knowledge sometimes. And what's your take on that?
I completely agree with all the things that you mentioned. It's very important, at least like to start with SQL and like the basic. Like you might not be able to go into the detail level in terms of like what's needed, like in terms of if it's machine learning, what is like like unstructured way of learning structured. So you might just want to understand the business context because we are still a BA. We shouldn't be thinking in terms of like technological, like even when you're writing the user story, you write from the user perspective, right? So you have to understand the technology assets, like what it can serve and what it is. But I don't think you have to get completely technical in terms of getting into the nitty-gritty of things. So that's why you have like solution leads and the engineers to take care of it. But to your point of like having these like trends, like which are like AI and machine learning and all those things are very important because now there's a huge demand in Australia, mostly from what I know, for data analysis. And in IIBA also recently they have introduced certification for data analytics as well. So that's something, it's a bigger trend that I see here, that everyone wants to know, everyone wants to have an understanding, and even the companies appreciate having those because even when you become a leader, your decisions are based on the data. And you should be able to, able to read and understand and at least to tell the engineering team what type of data that you want to see. So that's very important. And all these technology things will get evolving. So I think the basic skill is for a BA, like for a modern BA, they should be able to easily adapt. So they shouldn't be sticking with like something they are comfortable with or something they already know. Like say tomorrow, if there's a new methodology or new technology comes into picture, they should be able to learn, understand why it's being used and adapt. Because as BAs, like I think we should be a pioneer of adapting and showing the world, like we can easily like do these things. So getting in touch with the trend is very important. And also like again, like the modern BAs, like as I told you, like the industry would differ, the domains would differ, the system, the IT technology that you would work in would differ. When I'm in Australia, like all the past companies that I have worked on, it's actually my first time working on something. So when I was working at Superannuation, I told you, so that's something new. Then I was working with Microsoft 365, which was new for me at that time. But that didn't stop me from getting that job, landing that job, even though there are other people applied for it, because you should have your strong business analysis skill, which is basically asking the right question, like connecting the dots, making sure that you can bridge the technology and the business together, and making sure that you work with the business, not to just do what they say, but actually ask the right question, conduct the efficient workshop to actually go and understand what is the fundamental issue that they are trying to address. So I think that side of things is very important for a modern BA because things are going to keep evolving. But for us to be on top of it, it's all about our communication, interaction, and I think that's one of the differentiator that the business analysts have compared to other IT roles. And also, if you want to talk particularly about like the techniques and everything, it's the same. So it's I'm sure you have had looked at Babok and everything. So the fundamentals remains unchanged, but how you take it to the next level. Like say, for example, how are you doing the backlog management? You have the theory and you have some techniques how you can do it, but it's about, you can't just use the same thing what is told in the theory or in the book, but instead you understand the core reasoning behind why a technique is being used and what's the issue. And a BA should be able to adapt and customize a technique or a tool into the current problem or a domain that they are working in. So that's the main skill. Even in Australia, most of the job market, like, job leaders are expecting. So if you can do that, and even if you don't have a domain expert on a particular technique or a technology, it doesn't matter because those things can be learned.
Yeah. So that's a very valid point, Abhi, because when it comes to a business analyst, we are not technical analysts, right? Because the word doesn't say technical analyst or SQL analyst or something like that. It's basically it says business analyst because that's the piece that we are bringing to the table. It's the
That's right.
business, that's the juice, that's the exact role that the actually the ambience that the BA brings to the table. So we actually, even though that you learn technical things, Python or SQL or whatever it is, don't try to become a technical person. You need to have that X factor of you. Your X factor is business, the domain. That's why you are called a business analyst, not a Python analyst, not a technical analyst, nothing like that. So have always have that understand that clarity. So it's a very really valid point. So we are business analysts. We are not technical people, but understand the technology is best. It's good for you to understand the solutions and designing. But when it comes to becoming a BA, the soul of a BA is the business. That's why we are business analysts. Yeah. So Abhi, I think we are like coming to the end. So but I would like to ask from you one last question. So I think we have only one few minutes remaining. So I'll be asking about you about what are the recommended books. What do you like uh, recommend for the BAs?
Okay, so if I don't start that off, then it's not going to be right. So it's
Yeah.
a BA body of knowledge, the IIBA one. It depends, right? So if there are new BAs who are starting the career, who are actually climbing from like a junior BA to a senior BA, of course, the above and the agile extension with IIBA is a good start. And currently, I'm reading a book, so I thought I'm actually sharing the link if you want to share it with others as well. It's called Rock Crusher.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's actually a business analysis book on like backlog management
Okay.
and how you prioritize things. So I when we had the conference, so as you know in IABA we have Australia we have the conference called Festival of Business Analysis. So we had in October in Brisbane. So this book was got introduced during that conference. Uh, so I was trying to read and understand because that's a new book that I've been reading. But apart from the business analysis book, the other books that I would recommend, the one thing I don't know whether you guys have already read it. It's called Ikigai. It's understanding the purpose of life and what you want to do. And the other book is, I think it's called The Essentialist. I think so it's again like they talk about like the life and everything, but you actually can relate that to jobs as well. How not to
Mm-hmm.
overdo it, how to just pick the high priority ones and do a good job with it than doing everything at once. So those are some of the solutions I can think of out top of my mind.
Okay, Abhi. So we covered a lot of things. To summarize, we talked about yourself, how you started in Sri Lanka, then how you went to Australia, and then we talked about starting in IIBA, about volunteering, about becoming the chairman in Australia chapter, and then about the Australia chapter, and then we talked about becoming a global talent, like how you started in as a BA and what are the technical skills you got, what are the soft skills you got, the stakeholder differences, about the improvements you made to yourself, and how what are things similar to Sri Lanka, what are things different there, and the discussion went a lot of ways. And also we talked about new cutting edge technologies and about how business is more important than the technology aspect for a BA, even though we need to have some understanding about technology. So and I got your books also. I'll be putting them down in the links. So before ending today's discussion with Abhi, I would like to ask one more question. Like, Abhi, what what is a movie or TV series that inspires you? If you like to share with everyone.
Yeah. So these are like, so I'll tell you something about me. I'm not very good with names, mainly when it comes to TV series and movies. And like like when I started my career, I actually didn't have any movies or TV series that inspired me on my career journey. But I think last year or year before, I had a look at like some TV series, docu series, And I really like, like having the real example. So it's not like a completely fictional one. Like, at what one point this person has actually done this. So it's like, like my favorite quote is like, it's always impossible until it's done, right? So if you know that someone else have done it, like it's a motivation that you get. So I'm going to quote an Australian example. The TV series name is, I think, The Test. So it's about the Australian cricket team, about the challenges that they had, and also how they overcame and became. I think they are a strong team. So they are one of the strong team. How they became to a strongest team, and how they actually worked as a team, the leadership, how to be resilient in a tough time, how to actually take criticism. It was just interesting. So that was something I could reflect on it. And also there's another TV series. I hope the name is Ted Lasso. So it's again about a soccer coach on how. So I think he had the skill, but he didn't have an expertise on soccer or anything. So it's about like him coming to a team and him learning and building the team, and again it's about leadership. And I also think it's based on true events. So these are some of the series that I watched and which I could like connect it with my work, and improve on the way of thinking. Because for previous point about talking about resilient leadership, it's important that to understand that there's always things won't go as you plan, and it's all about like how fast we'll bounce back from come, because it's not end of the world. We will have challenges, but with our experience and with our personality, it's about like building that resilience where we can bounce back, come, and we don't just keep talking about the problem, but it's actually we talk about what to do next and move forward. So yeah, those are the two ones I can think on top of my mind.
Yeah. So sharing the same thing, like once you said about sports, these movies are mostly about sports, and likewise. So there are some good ones I had watched, like which are inspiration related to sports and that area. So like if I share something like the Blind Side, where you get Sandra Bullock, and also like Glitter and Grang, where you get Dwayne Johnson. So it talks about you have your pushbacks, your career, your life is not at a good level, but by hard working, by spirit, motivation, team, and doing what you are the best, and then you can become the best. So there are a lot of things we can take out of them, which are very important for career, as reading books. These things also give you the jet fuel to go high. Yeah. So thank you, Abi, for today's discussion. With that, I'll be stopping for today the discussion. And Abi, is there anything as the last comment from you?
Last comment, like I hope it won't be last. We will still keep engaging,
Yeah.
and if there's
Definitely.
way, if there's any way I can like help, because obviously Sri Lanka has a special place in my heart. Of course, you know why. So any way that I can still contribute, be part of it, and help the community, I would love to do that. So even if you want me to meet the IIBA Colombo team, would love to. And whenever I come to Sri Lanka, I will let you know so we can meet in person as well. And I want to end it with today's note is volunteering new knowledge or getting out of the comfort zone is not an easy task. If you're even thinking about it, or even if you're listening to this recording, that means you have taken one step forward on getting out of your comfort zone and learning new knowledge. So keep doing it, because mainly in IT world, being updated with the new trends and having these connections and talking to people is something it's very important to make sure that you can have a fast growth in your career. So wherever possible, you learn the knowledge and also again give back to the people. So I love the fact that now you're not just reaching out to the professionals, but also reaching out to the schools and the students. And because when I was in school, or even when I started the uni, I actually didn't know there was a profession like business analysis. It was new to me. So I was talking like many years ago. but empowering the people or the students, the younger generation, to say, hey, it's not just like lawyer or doctor, which are awesome professions, but you also have other options like business analysis, project management. It will be nice.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
continue doing the amazing work, and for all the branch volunteers, again, it's not an easy task to be a volunteer. It takes so much commitment and guts. But when you look back at your journey, like, so I have been volunteering for like more than 5 6 years, and now when I look back at the journey, I could have not done things any different. Just because you could have, on that journey, you could have met more interesting people, you could have learned so many things, you could have improved your ways of thinking, ways of like the knowledge that you will have. So don't regret. And if there's anything that you have further questions, if you want to connect, I'm just a message away, so you can find me on LinkedIn. Thank you, and thank you so much for reaching out and giving me an opportunity to actually connect back with Sri Lanka and have this session. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Abi. So nice to have you also, and looking forward to have more sessions with you. So everyone, this is the Analyst Cafe, and we will be meeting with another speaker like this, another guest like this, and we'll be going into the lenses of business analysis and all these fields which are related to analyst and what you need to improve in yourself. Thank you, Abi.